We are hearing from the family of a high school senior who was killed in a stabbing in Prince George's County.
23 days. That is all that stood between a young man and the rest of his life. 23 days between where he was and where he was going. 23 days between a courtyard in Maryland and a graduation stage that had his name on it. 23 days between the future his mother sat with him and planned out loud and the silence she is now living in. Most people do not think about how close they are to everything changing. Most people do not have to. But on a Friday afternoon in Prince George's County, 23 days became the most heartbreaking number a family has ever had to count. Here is the question this community cannot shake. How does someone take that much future from a person and simply walk away? No arrest, no answers. Just a yellow shirt disappearing into the afternoon and a family left holding everything that should have been. Stay with me because this case is not over and the person responsible is still out there. Welcome to Crime Cipher. We decode the cases the headlines summarize and the truth the system leaves behind. Subscribe if you're new here. This one does not let go. Hillcrest Heights sits in Prince George's County, Maryland, just outside the line that separates the suburbs from the city. It is the kind of neighborhood where people know each other, where kids grow up playing outside and families build their lives in apartment complexes that become communities within themselves. Marlow Towers Condominiums on St. Barnabas Road is one of those places. A residential complex where neighbors share courtyards and hallways and the kind of daily familiarity that makes a place feel like home. It is not the kind of place that makes the news. It is not the kind of place where families send their children outside expecting anything other than an ordinary afternoon. But on a Friday in early May 2026, at around 12:30 in the afternoon, that courtyard became a crime scene. The sun was out. The day was moving the way Friday afternoons move in residential neighborhoods. People going about their business. Neighbors within earshot. Nothing about that afternoon announced itself as dangerous. Nothing gave any warning that what was about to happen in that courtyard would send a ripple through an entire community that is still feeling it today. Therefore, when it was over and the police tape went up, the question that settled over Hillcrest Heights was not just what happened. It was how. How does something like this happen in broad daylight in a place where everyone knows everyone? That question is still waiting for an answer. There are students who go to school and keep their heads down and count the days until it is over. Amari Clarke was not that kind of student. He was a senior at Suitland High School in Prince George's County, a school he had shown up to day after day while building something real for himself. He was not coasting toward graduation. He was moving toward a specific plan with a specific destination. Trade school in Columbia, Maryland. A career as an elevator technician. A skill. A trade. A livelihood he had chosen deliberately and was 23 days away from chasing. His mother, Tiana Clarke, sat with him and talked about the kind of life he could build for himself.
He was a great kid. He loved family. He loved to play basketball. He always had a smile on his face. He just brought so much joy to everyone around him.
Those were not just conversations. They were blueprints. A mother and her son mapping out a future together the way families do when they believe in each other. That image carries everything. It carries the plans. It carries the hope. It carries the specific future that was 23 days from becoming real. The people who knew Amari did not describe him in vague terms. His grandmother said he had a kind heart and was the sweetest boy you have ever seen.
He was had a kind heart, sweetest boy you ever seen, and it's just so devastating for me to hear this news today.
Neighbors described him as a positive role model. The younger kids in the community looked up to him the way younger kids look up to someone who makes them feel safe. His mother said she always knew he had a bright light and that so many people loved him.
Always knew he had a bright light. So many people loved him.
These are not the words people reach for when they are trying to find something kind to say. These are the words people use when they are describing someone they genuinely could not imagine losing. But therefore, on an ordinary Friday afternoon, Amari stepped outside into a courtyard he had walked through countless times before. Nothing about that afternoon should have been different from any other. Therefore, 23 days never became 22. Around 12:30 in the afternoon on Friday, May 9, 2026, Amari Clarke stepped outside into the courtyard of the Marlow Towers Condominiums on St. Barnabas Road. What happened next unfolded in plain sight, in broad daylight, in a shared space where neighbors move through their daily routines without a second thought. An altercation broke out. The details of how it started and what led to that moment have not been confirmed by investigators. What is confirmed is that a confrontation took place in that courtyard between Amari and another individual. A witness nearby saw what was happening. She saw a man over Amari while he was on the ground. She described what she witnessed as a sustained and relentless attack. Another person who was present called out for it to stop, but the attack continued. But by the time it was over, Amari Clarke had suffered injuries that no courtyard, no ordinary Friday afternoon, and no 23-day countdown to graduation should have ever produced. Paramedics responded and transported Amari to a nearby hospital. He was pronounced dead a short time later. The individual involved fled the scene, but before leaving he took two things from Amari: his phone, his shoes. Therefore, what began as a confrontation in a residential courtyard ended as a robbery. A life taken, a future erased, a family's plans dismantled in the space of an ordinary afternoon. For what? That question has no answer yet. Investigators have not confirmed a motive. Therefore, the why of this case is sitting in the same silence as everything else surrounding it. The witness who saw what happened described the individual as an adult man wearing a yellow shirt. That description is currently the only physical detail investigators have made public in connection with this case. No arrest has been made. No suspect has been named. The person in the yellow shirt walked away from that courtyard and has not been publicly identified since. Prince George's County Police Department responded to the scene and launched a homicide investigation. Detectives worked to establish a suspect and determine a motive. But as of the time this episode was written, neither of those things has been confirmed publicly. The investigation remains active and ongoing. The only physical description available is a man in a yellow shirt. That is what stands between a family and justice right now. A color, a shirt, a detail that someone in that community may be sitting on without realizing how much it matters. Prince George's County crime solvers and the police department are offering a $25,000 reward for information leading to an arrest in this case. $25,000. That number is not symbolic. That is a serious figure attached to a serious ask. Someone in Hillcrest Heights, someone in that complex, someone who is in or around that courtyard on that Friday afternoon knows something. The witness who came forward and described what she saw proved that people were present. Therefore, the question is not whether someone has information. The question is whether that person will come forward and use it. Tiana Clarke has spoken publicly, and her words carry the full weight of what this family is living through. She said, "Say something. It would help me sleep better at night." She said her other sons would feel at peace. She said, "We have to stop the violence in this community because we are losing people every day." Those are not the words of anger. Those are the words of a mother who is trying to hold herself together long enough to be heard. She is not asking for sympathy. She is asking for action. She is asking whoever knows something to make a choice that her son never got to make for himself. Amari's stepfather said he lost someone who should still be here and that whoever is responsible needs to be brought to justice and prosecuted to the fullest extent. He said no one should lose their life over a senseless argument.
I lost a 17-year-old, and that shouldn't happen to no 17-year-old. At the end of the day, whoever done this, they need to be brought to justice and be prosecuted to the fullest extent, because no one should lose their life over a senseless argument.
That word, senseless, is doing a lot of work in this case, because nothing about what happened in that courtyard on that Friday afternoon has produced a reason that makes any sense to anyone who knew Amari Clarke. The community that surrounded him in life has surrounded his family in grief. Neighbors who described him as a big brother to younger kids in that complex are now the same neighbors living with the knowledge that what happened to him happened steps from their front door. That reality is sitting inside Marlow Towers Condominiums, whether anyone wants it to or not. Therefore, the community response to this case is not just emotional. It is personal. It is residential. It is the kind of grief that changes how you feel about the place you call home. 23 days. That number is not going away. It is going to sit with everyone who hears this story the same way it has been sitting with Tiana Clarke since the moment she got the news. 23 days between her son and everything they planned together out loud. 23 days between Amari Clarke and the version of himself he was already becoming. That gap is not just a tragedy. It is an indictment of every moment of silence that follows a crime like this one. Because here is what has to be said clearly. Someone knows who is wearing that yellow shirt. Someone in that community. Someone who walks through that courtyard. Someone who recognized a face in the middle of an afternoon that too many people witnessed for nobody to know anything. Is sitting on information that could give this family the one thing they are asking for. Not revenge. Not headlines. Sleep. That is what Tiana Clarke asked for. The ability to sleep at night. The ability to look at her other two sons and tell them that the person responsible is being held accountable. Amari had a plan. A real one. Trade school. A trade. A life he was building with his own hands toward his own future. That plan deserved the chance to become something. But therefore, it is now the responsibility of anyone with information to make sure that the person who took that chance away does not get to keep walking free while a graduation seat stays empty on June 1st. If you know anything about what happened in that courtyard on St. Barnabas Road on the afternoon of May 9th, 2020, and 26. Contact the Prince George's County Police Department or reach Crime Solvers anonymously. The reward is $25,000. But more importantly, the ask is simple. Say something, because a mother asked you to, because two brothers need peace, because a community cannot keep losing people and staying silent about it at the same time. If this episode moved you, drop a comment below. Share it with someone in the Prince George's County area who might have a piece of this puzzle. Every view, every share, every comment pushes this case in front of more eyes. Subscribe to Crime Cipher so you do not miss the follow-up when this case develops, because we will be back the moment it does. This has been Crime Cipher. We decode the cases the system hopes you forget. Until next time, stay sharp out there, because 23 days should have been more than enough.